Today we are introducing 3 more of Boo's Spoods. First, we are going to have Melody, the Avicularia Avicularia. Then, Fuzzers, the Tlilocatl Albopilosus. And last will be Sombra, the Tlilocatl Schroederi. This is Melody, my Avicularia Avicularia, commonly called the common pink toe or the Guyana pink toe. The Avi is a New World arboreal tea and is native to Central and South America. They are generally very docile and prefer to flee when startled. They can be bolty and are known to jump. The pink toe does have urticating hair, but they don't kick hairs. Instead, they need to rub their abdomens against you to hair you. They also have another interesting defensive tactic. They will poop on or at a perceived threat with surprisingly good aim. The females live 9 to 12 years and reach about 5 inches in leg span, and the males live 3 to 4 years and reach about 3.5 inches. One thing I really wanted to talk about when I picked Mel for this video was the issue I had while researching the husbandry for the Avi. So much information is conflicting. I kept coming across one term, so I really looked into it: sudden avic death syndrome. Reports of keepers having seemingly healthy teas that were active, eating, and being kept out was recommended that would suddenly just die. When the Avi first came into the hobby, keepers looked at where this tarantula was from: wet, humid, and warm. It was recommended to mist enclosures often, varying from daily to every few days, and you can still find this advice online today. What is left out is the importance of proper ventilation, cross ventilation. Yes, these teas are from wet, humid, tropical areas, but they live in the trees that have ocean breezes. If you are misting your Avi's enclosure often without the proper ventilation, that tea is living in humid, stagnant air. In these conditions, your substrate is also more prone to things like mold and mites. As adults, your Avi needs good cross ventilation, and a large water dish should be enough water to give your tea the moisture it needs. Juveniles and slings obviously need a bit more moisture, but not much. If you live in drier areas, you may need to keep the substrate a bit damper, but you still want to let it dry out between watering. I'm going to link a video below where multiple keepers discuss how they are currently keeping their Avis. This tarantula is one of the many examples of how important it is to keep learning about your spiders. Information on the care and husbandry for tarantulas is constantly changing, and what might be considered right today or even 5 years ago is considered wrong tomorrow. This is Fuzzers, my Tlilocatl Albopilosus, formerly Brachypelma albopilosum. Commonly called the curly hair, the Nicaraguan, or the Honduran curly hair. The Nicaraguan is considered to be the true form, while the Honduran is considered to be the hobby form. Suspicion of crossbreeding, either intentionally or accidentally, with closely related species has possibly caused the 2 different forms, but without DNA testing and research, we may never know if they are 2 different species. Whether from crossbreeding or just variants from different regions, the visual differences come down to the color of the body, ranging from a light brown to an almost black like mine, but both will have the fluffy look to them. These are New World tarantulas coming from Costa Rica and obviously Honduras and Nicaragua. These are terrestrial tarantulas, but will burrow until about 3 to 4 inches. Generally speaking, this species is rather docile and relaxed. I have never seen any defensive response from mine, but like with all teas, that can change from spider to spider and even from molt to molt. As far as lifespan, the females can live up to 25 years, while the males live to about 4 to 5 years. The females grow to 5 to 6 inches, and the males, as usual, come in a little bit smaller. Fuzzers was my first larger tea, and by larger, she is only about 3 inches, so not even adult size yet. But when I got her, I only had 2 1-inch slings. Her full name is actually Fuzzers, Queen of the Fuzzerlings, and with a fuzzy little butt like that, I had to name her something silly. So like I have said before, I thought I was prepared when I started collecting, and I wasn't, and this was my first big example of how not prepared I was. I don't like admitting this, but as I want to use these videos to document and share my experiences, I will admit this now. I almost killed her the day I got her. So I brought her home, I set up her new enclosure, and while trying to gently urge her out by touching her little fuzzy toes with the straw, she flipped around and bit it. I might have yelped or screamed, I don't really know. I do know I yanked my hand back, but I didn't drop the straw when I did it, and she didn't let go of that straw either. She went flying and landed on my desk. In truth, she maybe fell 6 inches, but even that drop could have killed her. I knew right away it wasn't an aggressive response or even a defensive response. It was simply a feeding response. I cupped her and simply moved her into her enclosure and worried for the rest of the day if I just killed my new tarantula. This is Sombra Capador, a Tlilocatl Schroederi, the Mexican black velvet. To start with, I have to say this tarantula is really hard to research. Very little information about the species is out there. It was first described fairly recently in 2003 as Brachypelma schroederi, and in 2019 it was moved over to Tlilocatl. The T. schroederi is a New World tarantula native to the southern Pacific side of Mexico. Even the dwelling type of this spider is hard to find. Some will say fossorial, some will say terrestrial. I am going with terrestrial, opportunistic burrower. Much like other Tlilocatls, I am assuming at larger sizes it will burrow less. They are said to be very docile and calm, great for beginners, and have a really good feeding response. Females will live 15 to 20 years and males 3 to 4 years, with a max size of 4 to 5 inches. The best advice I could give for keeping this tea would be to set up your enclosure in a terrestrial fashion, with your hive and your water dish and maybe a plant, with enough substrate to dig if your tarantula wants to. I would keep one side of your enclosure damp, not wet, but damp, and the other side dry, and let your tarantula pick which side they want and follow their lead. What I find really surprising is the lack of popularity of this species. It grows into a beautiful, deep black spider, is noted to be docile, and keepers say that they can be great display tarantulas. These are a lot of the same reasons people say they want the Brazilian black. The Brazilian black would be larger, but how cool would it be to have them side by side on display? Clearly my Sombra is still very small. I've had her for about 2.5 months and it has already molted twice for me. She has always been a great eater, except for when in pre-molt, when she kicks hairs at her little crickets. She hasn't really been skittish. In fact, she's been the opposite. If I'm working on her enclosure, giving her water, cleaning things up, or working in an enclosure next to her, she will come out and investigate. This is what led to another newbie mistake I made. She hadn't moved for about 3 days, and I finally gave in, and I dug her out to check on her. And she wasn't moving, there was no response. I thought she was dead. I put her back in her enclosure, and I put the lid on, and I stepped away to kind of deal with that before I came back and cleaned out the enclosure. I came back, and lo and behold, there she is, having a molt. I was so happy. I can't wait to see her grow and have her adult colors come out. Even now, every time she molts, she gets a little bit darker, and it's really exciting. I really think everyone should have one of these tarantulas. So there's 3 more Spoods, 18 left to go, though it will start to get harder to get decent footage as some are burrowed in and really small. I know I could use footage from other people, pictures from other keepers of full-grown spiders, but these are Spoods and I'm really wanting to use my spiders in my videos. I have 3 right now that are still under 1/4 inch. I know most of the video I have, even now, isn't the best. It's kind of shaky, sometimes out of focus, but again, my spiders. When I first got my spiders, I didn't plan on making videos to share with other people, to share online, so I don't have the proper fancy equipment to do this. I'm only using my phone. Maybe eventually I'll get better cameras and proper footage and do all the fancy stuff. But for now, this is what I have. This is what I'm working with. As far as updates from this past week with my Spoods, there is some exciting stuff. We had 3 molts, Mel and Sombra from this video, and Piglet, one of my deep Pentalauruses that hasn't been introduced yet. We'll get there. Fuzzers, who has been burrowed and not eating the past 4 months, came out and had a nice big meal for me. That was great. We also have 4 rehousings: Eduardo, my A. Samani, Pikachu, my G. Pulcrips, Benita, my B. Smithy, and Sasha, my GBB. Another great moment was when my A. Moray, she's a 1/4 of an inch sling, and my most expensive tarantula, she finally ate for me. I got her about a month ago, and she's been rejecting everything since I got her. That's all for this week, and I look forward to introducing more, and I hopefully will have more exciting news next week.